Welcome to Elevate Springfield, where we will dive into strategies and stories that help you rise to your full potential. Each episode, we'll talk about how you can take intentional steps to elevate your life and your business while making a meaningful impact on those around you. Along the way, we're going to bring in the change makers from our community that are already elevating. We'll bring the actionable strategies, you bring the discipline and follow through, and together we can elevate Springfield.
All right, let's go, Springfield. Time to 10x your life, your business, all of it. Time to crush those goals. Time to get after it. Let's go. You are listening to the Elevate Springfield podcast. Robert Farrell here, certified 10X coach, speaker, and mentor, here to bring you actionable strategies. You bring the discipline and follow through, and together we're going to elevate Springfield. We're coming to you again from beautiful downtown Springfield in the Big Dog Construction Studio. Hey, we've got so much going on in Springfield right now. Make sure you are participating. Get out there, network with folks, be a part of the community, support local businesses, support local nonprofits, and let's go. We can all grow together. So, hey, another great episode for you today. We're going to get right to our guest after the break. Hey, Springfield, when it comes to reliable, high-quality roofing, you don't want to leave things to chance. That's why you should reach out to Acosta Angeli Roofing, your local roofing expert, serving Springfield and surrounding communities. From quick, dependable repairs to full replacement, from residential to commercial, they are your trusted pros. Call them today at 217-993-2748 or visit their website to book your free quote and inspection. Don't wait. A little leak now could lead to major damage later. Trust the local experts, protect your home, and get peace of mind with Acosta Angeli Roofing. All right, and we are back. Hey, joining me in the studio now, John Geyston from Empowered Martial Arts. John, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. It's good to be back home in the capital city.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're based out of Florida now, but
I am
back in town because you still have, of course, Empowered everything here, right? So we'll talk all about that, but appreciate you coming down. And let's just start with a little bit about you, John. Tell us about your background, man.
Well, I'm assuming we'll talk about the martial arts, but I'll share a little bit, like personal-wise. When I was 4, my dad was killed in a car accident, and I tell you that part of the story because growing up, I didn't have that father figure, male role model, right?
Yeah.
And it got to the point where even sometimes I was resentful. When I'd watch kids playing catch with their dad, I'm like, man, I'm mad at that kid, right?
Yeah.
And it was just a weird thing. And I think for me, martial arts, and there was something about it. So I did it when I was 9 for a summer, did it when I was 15 for about a year and a half, I would say. Probably 8. Yeah, I would say about 18 months. There was something that drew me to it, but it just wasn't connecting for me. It was just like, and really, honestly, and I always say this, the first 2 guys that I did lessons with, 1972, 1977, 76, 77, they were probably, from Karate Kid, they probably made John Kreese look like a good human being.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they just weren't good people.
Right.
So, and I remember telling my mom, I said, you put me in karate because I'm being bullied. But the instructor's meaner than any of the kids. I would rather fight
bully I've ever.
I would rather fight the 3 kids.
Right.
So, and then I got back out of Lincoln Land and I started knowing the karate group was there, and it was Doug Dennis had an intramural program out there. And everybody was my age. And, and I just kept walking by for about a month. It was right down the hallway on my Friday history class that I had. Finally, I seen a guy come out in the gi, and I started talking to him. One thing led to another. I'm doing a class a week later, and I've done it 4 or 5 days ever since that. So I always say the martial arts found me. I'm not certain I found it. So I start out at Lincoln Land, and, as a 2-year college, the instructor was David Isaac. And 2-year college, he took a job in Tennessee. Doug Dennis comes to me and John Patterson and says, hey, if you guys take over the program, I'll give you free membership to the main academy.
Heck yeah.
Right?
Let's go.
And I always joke about that. And I mean, I'm paying my way through Lincoln Land. I'm Aurelio's Pizza. I'm driving a powder blue Vegas station wagon with 2 different fender colors and in a red jumpsuit delivering pizzas to get my way through college. And I'm like, I'm in. And I always joke about that later. I'm like, I was such a good businessman. I negotiated working 12 hours a week for $52.50 a month. But that opened the door. And I always say he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And At that time, it was never meant to be anything other than a hobby. And I enjoyed competing and enjoyed sharing and teaching and helping people get better and, did that. And then about a year later, 1983, that's 82, 83, I go up to Williamsville where I went to junior high and high school. The gym owner up there just asked me about it. So we start the program there. And then I move it over to Athens, Illinois, and I bought a building for $7,000.
Really?
And ran it out of there for about 5-6 years and sold that building for 13. And I'm like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why I didn't keep with that model.
Right.
But so no, that was kind of how the whole started. It wasn't meant to be. In 1996, I'm working. I taught 14 years part-time. 96, I'm working as a labor relations with the state. And then I went to work for the Teamsters. Just decided, the only thing that I love doing and it makes me feel alive is when I'm teaching martial art. So I went full time. I walked away from it in 1996 and walked away from 6-figure income to make $5,000 my first year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a scary thought for a lot of people.
Oh, so
taking
much,
that
so
leap,
much.
And
the tempting part was when you're in that type of struggle and you've been in business and so many people probably listen to this has been in business. And I got the Teamsters trying to get me back. Now they've offered me 25, then it was 30,000 more. And then I had taken the test 3-4 years earlier for state police. They call me. And then I got DOT calling me, want me to come back and take my job.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like, I kept thinking.
All these different arms trying to pull you back.
And it's tempting.
Yeah.
When you're only bringing home $5,000 in a year. So and I'm just stuck to it. I'm really glad. I joked but that was the discipline and perseverance of it, right? Like I ain't going to win any championship if I'm not training. Mm-hmm. So let's just stick with this as training.
Right. So in that 14 years of part-time, were you just doing it in the evenings? Was it mostly with kids, adults? What was it?
A little bit of both. I was fortunate, and I think anybody that gets in business, I just enjoyed doing it. And it was a blend of that. I think maybe my peak was 70, 75 students, right? And I thought, okay, I feel good with this. I like it. And again, it wasn't meant to be a business. And in 96, when I made that big shift, I realized, okay, I have no clue how to price my programs. Mm-hmm. I have no clue how to schedule for efficiency for families. I have no clue how to market. I have no clue. So I joined a consulting group to figure all that out because I'm like, hey, I know if I'm going to make this work, I got to have some help because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Because I think all of us that start a business, we enjoy what we do, but running a business as an individual is totally different than running a business with systems in place and processes in place.
Completely agree.
Because you got to repeat it. So, right. And I've been if we advance forward, gone 5 years living in Tampa. Rick Christie is my business partner on this school, operating business partner on this. And they've grown the academy. They continue to grow it. 15, 20% a year. And it's just because we have systems in place.
Right. So you started from the mid 90s on there. How long did it take you to get some of those systems in place and really start seeing some of that growth?
Once I got in the consulting group, I think naturally I am what you would call a reflective person. And I'm somebody that I go by the motto, we never know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. So I'm the perfect student. I'll put my feet on the dot, say yes, sir, and you tell me to do the drill, I'll do the drill.
Sure.
So that was fairly quick. I want to say we went from 50, 60 students to 180 within probably 9 to 10 months.
That's big.
After jumping in the consulting group.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, it was 400 members. And I would have never thought.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And I still had stuff to learn, but It was just getting over that first hurdle from, I remember going to the banks and stuff, and one banker even laughed at me and was almost to the point of rude. Mm-hmm. Like he just shoved it back to me. He goes, man, this is a waste of my time.
Right.
Coming in here with a hobby. There's no way you can do this. 2011, we're on the cover of MA Success, which is the Forbes magazine of the martial art industry.
Come on.
And I moved back here I moved away and went to work for that consulting company. 98, we pretty much went from 96 to 98. We went to 400 members. I went to work for that company in United Professionals, and I went down there and worked for them for about a year and a half. Came back when my son was born, started to school in 2007, and in 2010, we were at 725 active members right out of Springfield. And I say that because I think sometimes all of us that are Midwest small town people think only New York, LA, big cities are getting that. No, we beat everybody.
Right.
We were the biggest school, and it was right out of Springfield, Illinois. And the people who did that, they came in to shoot the photos and stuff. And he said, I got to tell you, it's even more impressive because what the hell is this town? Because they're from LA.
Sure.
And you when you're flying in from St. Louis and driving up here, you're like,
right. Yeah.
You know,
Fields all the way up.
100%. But, I'm like, yeah, it's just small town.
Right.
John Cougar Mellencamp.
Right.
This
Wow.
is, type thing.
Well, to grow it that much so quickly, what was your primary marketing on that? What did you guys do?
I truly believe I always cared. And in 97, 98, I was asked to speak to a juvenile detention center. And I'm sitting there, and there was maybe 6, 7 kids in the group. And I'll share the story because this was the shift for me. And I can tell you this wasn't the transformation. And, I'm looking at these kids, and there was a girl in the front row. She might be 13, 14. And she's looking at me like I owe her money or something. And I'm thinking, how can somebody have so much hate at such a young age for someone they never met?
Right.
And it's not where I'm judging her. I'm like, man, I have no clue what this room is feeling on the inside. And I'm trying to do the past doesn't define our future. We learn,
right.
We have to expose our weaknesses. I'm trying to be on the positive side. And a kid in the back, he says, hey, what's your name again? And did you ever teach? And about 4 questions into it, he goes, do you remember a kid by the name of Peanut? And I go, oh, yeah. I said, Peanut was with me probably, I want to say. And I said, man. And I start going, I said, he's a good kid. I said, he only did it for a short period of time. I said, are you friends with him? He goes, that's me, man. And right immediately I thought to myself, the signs were always there. He had a dirty gi. His parents never showed up to watch his class, never showed up to his tournament, never showed up to his belt promotions. And then he just disappeared.
Right.
And I started thinking to myself, could I have done something different to change his outcome? I didn't take the responsibility, but I'm like, I could have done something.
Yeah, what could I have done differently?
Yeah. And I asked the guy, the guard that was there, and I said, I'm not asking personal information. I said, I would like to be able to help him when he gets out and give him just membership.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, when he hits 17, he'll go away for 10 years.
Wow. Or
18, whatever the age was. So like if you go to the adult penitentiary.
Sure.
And I'm like, man. So I went back immediately and I started realizing outside of the technique, there are people that need this to find who they are and to find their potential.
Right.
And really that's what we're doing. Right. But I'm like, we've never looked at it from the character development side. So 97, 98 is when I made that shift. And that's when things started taking off. I thought it was really clever at the time. We called it the Mall Paul Group, Martial Art Parent Association. And we just started doing fundraisers. We gave away $60,000 to at-risk kids. Started doing the Thanksgiving Basket Brigade for families that were in need, providing baskets for food for them to have Thanksgiving dinner for up to a family of 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say our last year, now when I moved to Florida, we stopped that just because I didn't want to put that burden on Rick and everybody else because it's an undertaking. I think we're going to try to kick that back in this year. But no, those are the things. So I think my theory was this could be transformational for somebody. And if you know your purpose and your mission, then you just got to figure out your processes. And I was figuring out the processes to run the business. And then it was a reconnection of why am I doing this?
Right.
I used to say, I want the mentor that I needed when I was 9. And I want to now be the mentor that Peanut needed when he was 9. Which obviously, and again, I don't take fault, but I'm like, I could have helped somehow.
Right.
So
with that, I mean, of course, a lot of people are taking karate because they want the self-defense aspect and everything. But how do you embed that mentorship as the leader in a facility like that?
Yeah, well, and that is very interesting question that you just asked because the timing on this, we have 5 or 6 new people. We have like what we call a coach instructor development course.
Yes.
And I just talked with them Monday night. I spent 90 minutes with them, and it wasn't on nothing how to correct the punch, nothing. I talked about you have to understand, and I had them tell me their story, why they started. And I said, why'd you stay? And they said, well, the culture and everybody cared. One guy said, he goes, everybody was so nice. I kept thinking, as soon as they get my money, I bet you they don't pay attention to me. And he goes, and I was wrong. And I kept thinking, I'm waiting for the past the sales romance period. Right?
Sure.
And he goes, it never happened. He goes, to this day, they treat me the same way they treated me the first week. And I said, we have to know what our passion is, our purpose. And if we know that, I can show you the process. And then I talked about you can't help anybody until you build up rapport first and then a relationship. I said, even trying to correct the kid's front kick. He's going to accept that correction better from someone that he knows that actually has built up a relationship with him and knows he cares rather than criticizing his technique.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And I really think that, when people ask me, and yes, you have to understand business systems. You have to understand sales. You have to understand. But I think at the end of the day, there's people that have business practices down, but they're not connected to the purpose and the mission. So the 100%, 90 minutes of that talk was to connect everybody emotionally to why they want to coach. I said, if you're wanting to coach because you want to stand in front and have someone bow to you and call you sir, never do that here at Empowered. We don't have a position for you.
Yeah. I love that. No, it's service. It's service over
100%.
selling a package. It's you
Yeah.
serving your people there. So over the years at the Springfield location here, has it been primarily kids or adults?
We've always, I would say kids naturally, that's the ones who reach out the most.
Right.
But we have always done, I would say we're probably 60% kids, 40% adults, which is very high for the industry. But we've always had a more reality-based and character, same thing. Character development for adult, he needs to be around an aspiring crowd, stress relief from the day, positive thoughts, direction. I have a complete thing I call confidence through competence. Your parents can tell you you're beautiful, you're smart, you can be anything you want to be in your life. But if I have no social proof of that, how can I? They're just words.
Right.
So we need to create an environment where someone can feel a struggle, feel a challenge, maybe fail, but in an environment where someone's there to support and say, you got this. The problem wasn't there. The problem was 30 seconds before. Let's go back to this and talk about where your hand should have been or blah, 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 blah. Well, now you can start applying that in life. So I think they see the character side for them as well. I'm not going to build their confidence up the same way I build up a kid's, but I think overall, all of us, what is the number one thing? And you know this from your education and 10X with Grant Cardone's organization. And self-improvement is the biggest business that's out there. When I was doing the labor relations for DOT, I handled everything from Springfield to Chicago and from the west to the east. And, you get tired of radio after a while. So Tony Robbins was it.
Yeah.
And I still have that cassette and DVD set. That's how, and my wife went to throw them out there. They go, are you nuts? That's like throwing out the family album.
That's right.
Photo album. You don't do that.
No.
But I have the original hard case stuff. I think I have the DVD set now. I don't know. I can't find the cassettes.
That's great though. That's awesome.
It's the one with him when he's maybe 30 years old. Right. So, but I kept thinking this is the part that's missing in the physical part.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, for folks that may not have ever had anything to do with martial arts, what is a typical training track? Maybe they've got a kid that's 10 years old and they come in. What's the track look like for them?
Well, we start off, we do, everybody's eligible for belt testing. We run everything on quarterly exams, quarterly reviews. We teach an A-B day split. So the lesson plan is divided in 2 parts. Monday, Tuesday's identical. Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday's identical. We're always closed on Fridays. So they do that. They're going to progress in stripes. And then when they get the 3 stripes, if they have the 3 stripes when the 12 weeks, they're eligible to test. And then they go through a testing process with that. If they're not, the good news is there's one in another 12 weeks.
Right, exactly.
So you can jump back on that. So we want to clarify a very, it's a visual aspect for them to see this is my path, my journey, and we call it the pathway to success, the black belt destination. So it's very defined for them. And I think that's another thing. I remember starting in jiu-jitsu and myself, and I'm just like, you have no clue when you're going to get promoted. You have no clue when this is going to happen. You have no clue with this. And I don't think that's wrong. But I think we as a society and a culture want to know. Yeah. If I go to Harvard, I know if I pass every test and go from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior, I'm going to graduate with a Harvard degree. That's not known in our industry. And that was one of the things I made an adjustment on. Yeah. Let's clarify this.
We all need targets. We talk about that in 10X all the time. You have to have the target. That's the first thing. Set the target, and then we'll come up with the plan and the processes, whatever we need to do to get there. But you got to have a target.
Yeah, and so many people don't.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of the adjustments were like, those were little things that weren't clear in traditional classic martial art instruction. So we clarified that, and I think that's 2 questions. That's your question there, but it also goes back to when you're clarifying that, people are more connected to you and they understand the process. When we're going to quit, I quit because I don't know, when I'm going to get there, or I'm going to give up because I'm just not, I don't feel I'm progressing. So I think we need to see progress. We need to see the visual access to it. But, for the Kimpo is the side that we teach on the martial art with a blend of Muay Thai. We have 2 different belt programs, basically. You can do the martial arts and you can do the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is a little bit longer, but someone can literally, if they're there 2-3 days a week and they're consistently stripe testing and moving up, they could get their black belt in 4.5 to 5 years. We have a different belt program for 4 to 5 year olds. There's extra belts and steps that they take.
Sure.
Because we don't want a 8-year-old black belt.
Yeah.
They're not ready for that.
Right.
Black belt is maturity. Some people have a disagreement with that. That's perfectly fine. I always say we don't know if our way is the right way, but it's right for us. And it's been proven to be right for 12,000 students in 44 years in Springfield.
12,000 students.
12,000 students.
Love it.
So we want to be clarified. We want people to see that I can't inspect, right? What we don't understand is expected. So the same thing, just as managing people, they have to do that. And I always say we work for them. We have to show them this is what I'm going to do for you if this, and thank you for paying me and hiring me at XYZ amount per month.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you said those stripes, those are those intermediary targets essentially, right?
Yes.
They have to do they have to do something to earn a stripe, to get the next stripe, to get, right?
Right,
So
absolutely, yeah.
what are some of the things that you do to earn a stripe?
Well, they'll go again. Attendance is not the indicator, but it is the benchmark.
Right.
Like if you don't have a minimum of 10 classes in, you can't evaluate for the stripe.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have 10 classes.
Right.
And if you don't have it, well, you're not ready.
Yeah.
And then you got to have the 3 to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's really reviewing. We will offer that stripe testing at the 5th week cycle, right? So we've done A day, B day. So now we're into a 10 lesson, and then it repeats. They'll stripe test then, and they stripe test again on the 10th week. And then on the 11th week, we do nothing but complete review of the summary of week 1 through 10.
Sure.
And then on the 12th week, they test for their belt. So then they kind of repeat the process. So it's also taking little quizzes before I take the final exam.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, you said 12,000 students in Springfield over the course of these 44 years, I think.
44 years, yeah.
So how many locations do you have now?
We did downsize. We had 2 locations when I moved to Florida. And we downsized basically because I didn't want to stress the staff.
Sure.
With me being gone, everybody had to step up to the main thing. And I said, hey, we can move Rochester, merge them over. And there's a lot of people that are still with us from that. So now we're just the one main school. I think we're about 400 active members at this location.
But don't you have one in Florida too, though?
I do.
That's holistically, yeah. What do you have?
Tampa, we run a smaller school down there. It's I don't want to say retirement because I never see myself retire.
Sure.
But I'll be 64 a week from this Saturday, so I'm trying to slow down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
So we have focused on like 175 members down there.
Yeah.
And it's just a smaller school, easier. I'm not wanting to. Now, if I end up with a staff member that's gung-ho and wants to go, hey, let's do it. But right now for John, 165, 175 is really good.
Okay.
For Tampa. So I always call that my slow down school.
Uh-huh.
Chill school.
There you go. So what, out of curiosity, why Tampa? Why'd you choose to move to Tampa?
Yeah. We've always talked about that. When I went to work for United Professionals, they were based out of Coral Springs, Florida, and by Fort Lauderdale. All right, and we lived over there for a little bit, and that to us in 2001 was fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was from New York, New Jersey. You're coming from here. Hey, how you doing? You're talking to everybody at the gas station. There, if you hold a door for somebody, I remember holding a door for like some 80-year-old woman, and I said, "Ma'am, good morning," and she clutched her purse like I was going to mug her.
Oh wow.
It had that big city vibe. It was not relaxing.
Right.
So I knew East Coast, maybe the Gulf Coast will be a little more Midwestern. And we found that in Tampa. Florida overall is not the same community as Illinois.
Right.
I purposely just wave, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Wave at everybody in the neighborhood, and you're lucky if you get a nod.
Right.
Right. But but then there'll be somebody else in that house 12 months from now because it's so transitional and everybody's from somewhere else. So It's just interesting and I'm loving it. But my kids both went to college in Florida and I'm just like, and that was at the 40-year mark.
Okay.
Down there, it'd be 5 years in September. And I'm just like, you know what? Let's just go do it. I'm not needed here. I got a great team and, I'm needing a little bit of a shift after 40 years. Most people retire.
Right.
After 25, 30 years in a job, I'm like, I'll just relocate.
Yeah, just make a little shift.
Yeah.
So did you go into Tampa thinking that you were going to do another school or did that come later?
I did. I knew I was going to do that. And honestly, I was going to focus possibly on just like private lessons or going into a rec center because I knew I didn't want to bite off all of it myself. And then I had some people come forward and they wanted to get involved. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So, we went big and I'm sitting here telling you I'm slowing down, but all at the same time, we're looking at a second location down there. But it'll be a slow down. So I don't know if I'm ever going to slow down.
No, of course. When you love what you do, you never really slow down.
Exactly.
What it is.
when I started, like I always said, Doug saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And there's a quote, I am not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. Right.
Mhm.
So Doug saw an instructor in me, and I never saw myself an instructor.
Yeah.
And then people started, being positive about that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. And when I went in 96, when I went full time, I knew people who made a career teaching martial arts. Doug told me not to do it. My best friend told me not to do it. My Kimpo instructor told me not to do it. And then my mother, who told me I could be anything I wanted to be my entire
Right.
life, told me don't do it. And I didn't know anybody. I didn't, because they said, no, this is not meant to be a career. This is meant to be an art that we share. And, and I'm like, okay, well, Dave Kovar, Bill Clark. So I got all these people, Sergio von Schmeling, Tiger Shulman, Fred Degenberg. They all got multiple schools. So it could be done. Why would we not want to make a larger impact if we know this is a very transformational, positive thing for people? Why would I want to do more of that? So now, and I say that because when people come to me now and they say, I love this stuff, I would love to be able to do this for a career. How do I get started?
Right. Let's go.
And I have 2 people come to me, they go, I want to do a school under you. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So 2 and 3 is because people have approached me.
Yeah.
And my wife was sitting in the background when a guy called me. I'm painting the walls in our new place rather than hiring the painters to do it, because I'm still a little like,
yeah, I get it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch that budget. I can paint.
Paint can
I
do
just
those
can't.
things.
I can't do electrical.
Right.
So I get a phone call on a guy. He's been trying to get hold of me. So he's a friend, and he's like, "Hey, you want to buy my school, and I'll just work for you." And I'm like, "Oh man, I said I'm really not in a position to do that right now." Blah 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 blah. And then I go, "How many students you got? Yeah. What's your retention? What's the attrition rate? I said, "Send me your numbers." And then she looked at me. She's like, "Here we go." And I go, "I'm not doing it." She goes, "No. When you ask those questions, I know exactly where we're going." Next day, I got a guy, and I go, "Hey, you still interested in starting a school?" Yeah. I got one that we can go 50-50.
Here we go. Come on.
So again, I'm never going to slow down.
Yeah. So back when you first started, all those folks were telling you don't do it.
Yeah.
So how did you push through that maybe mental hesitation? Because there's a lot of people out there that would have said, you know what, maybe it's not a good idea. All these people are telling me I shouldn't. Right. So how'd you push through that?
Well, and it was difficult, because then at the same time, I'm not making any money.
Right. Exactly. You said you're only making like $5,000 or whatever. Yeah. So you're,
and I realize, and I hate to use this word because it sounds like an arrogant statement, but when someone does a business, making it scalable is a lot different than being successful. Individuals can be successful.
Yeah.
And usually it's because of the personality, charisma, or the work ethic of the one person. But to have a team of 5 other people that can duplicate and scalable that is the totally different beast.
It sure is.
So I realized when all these people are calling me and stuff, I'm just like, okay, this has to be, first I got to be able to do it myself. And then by 97, 98, I'm figuring out how to teach people to do the exact same thing. Okay, well, this person, here's these 8, so I designed 8 pillars and then started teaching. Well, I'm going to do a little certification to get you through pillar 1. Now you understand pillar 2. Now you understand pillar 3.
Right.
But I don't know. I think maybe the martial arts side of me as a competitor, and I competed heavily. I think won 179 tournaments between 1981,
179? Wow.
179 tournaments between 81 and 96. And then I started competing in jiu-jitsu at 59. And I've won six gold medals in jiu-jitsu.
Come on.
So I think there's, and I don't say that as I just say that's me.
Right.
My knees are bad. They're 64-year-old knees. They might be 80 because they went through a lot. But I still like getting out there and pushing myself. So
and it's not arrogant.
Question,
yeah, Grant says it's not bragging if it's true. So just
I think they're just my emotional makeup is I like challenges. And when people are telling me that, I'm like, watch me.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're expecting me to lose. Check this out, But then again, when you're looking at bills and you're like, holy crap. Man,
right.
Maybe right. And I remember telling my mom, I go, Mom, wait a minute. You have told me all my life I can be any. And I don't know if you ever had this. You have advice from someone. And every mother, what's every mother going to tell us? You're beautiful.
Right.
You're so smart. And you're hearing all this stuff. And you can be anything you want to be. And then I'm watching my mom and I'm thinking, and I remember asking her this, and hopefully I said it the right. Mom, if I can be anything I want to be, are you who you want to be? Because I don't see it. We had financial struggles, career. I said, did you have dreams? And then I realized also you lost your husband. You were a widow with 2 kids at 21.
Right.
So, and you dropped out of school to have me. So I always ask that. And then when she's saying, I go, Mom, you told me I could be anything I want to be. And the one day I tell you what I want to be, you tell me don't do it. And I go, and I know it's coming from your heart because financially I was probably where they never were.
Right, right.
And she didn't want me to be where they were.
Mhm.
And I got that. And I said, just trust me on this one, Mom.
Right.
I said, trust me. I got this. And I said, if I fail, I went down swinging.
There you go.
You know, and I said, and they'll call. They keep calling me, you know. So I think in the back of my mind, my boss kept my job open as a leave of absence.
Did he really?
And I told him, I said, he goes, you know, you got to leave out, you come back. And he's saying this to me at the moment that I'm struggling at.
Right.
And I got to tell you, there was about 36 hours where I was like, yeah, you know, I can still make an impact part-time.
Right. Sure.
Well, you know, I'm starting to rationalize and justify. And I'm like,
Right.
no. And I just told him, I say, will you do me, cancel that. And he goes, I said, no, cancel the whole leave of absence. Because I said, I cannot walk into a room if I have one foot in the hallway.
Right.
And I go, now that you told me that, part of my brain's going to be back there. So I need you to cancel so I know I don't have that option.
Got burn the ship.
He goes, dude, that's ballsy. And I go, yeah, okay. I said, or stupid or genius.
Right.
The future will determine.
Right. So when was it that you really felt like, I got this? I mean, you knew you had it early on, but then you saw some pretty quick growth. But when was that point where you're like, yep, I got this?
And I think most success comes in stages, right?
Mhm.
So we went from I'm not making it to survival.
Right.
Then towards a little bit of abundance. And then when I'm around these other people, and I felt like 98, 99, I had it. And then I went through divorce in a personal,
Mhm.
you know, that an emotion that crashed. And then I get offered that job to move to Florida for the same group that changed my life in 97.
Mhm.
They want me to take the handling all brand new schools coming on. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do that. And then when I got in that group, I realized I wasn't where I could have been. Right. I'm
Mhm.
doing good. But again, we don't know what we don't know. And what's the measurement? Are you and I competing against each other? Okay. Well, if one of us is below average and the other one is slightly above, it doesn't mean we're great.
Right.
It just
Exactly.
means that we're both average.
Right.
I see people what I call competing at the bottom all the time. You know, why don't you increase it by 10, 15, 20% a year?
Absolutely.
You know, even when you're successful, my goal is still, what could I do? 15 to 20%. Why would I step back in the ring at 60? That's, for most people, that's dumb.
Right.
And every once in a while, my doctor asks me if I understand my age. But I think it's just that mentality. But so I felt 98, 99, I knew we made it from where I started.
Mhm.
And I knew the naysayers who were coming from their heart. It wasn't hate. It wasn't negative hate. It was care. I knew that by their standard, I made it. And I thought I made it. And then when I get down to Florida and I'm starting to consult them with all the big dogs, I'm like, I never knew that. Tell me about that.
Right.
You know, tell me about this. And I think I was always a student. I never was, even though I was the director of new schools. Okay. I'm asking a guy that went from similar deal. If you went from 50 to 150 students, was there 5 definite steps that you did?
Right.
Share those with me. Let's explore them together. Let's unpack that. Right. I think that was the momentum to come back in 07 and go from 07 to 2010 to 725 because I figured out that.
Right.
That's when I knew I had it. But I think all businesses roller coaster.
Oh, sure.
There's sometimes I wish I would have just been,
Right.
you know, I'm always like helicopter,
Right.
helicopter, roller coaster. And, you know, sometimes I think this would have been the safer way.
Right.
But I don't know if safe is who I am.
No. And that's why it's so important to make sure you have people in your circle that are striving for bigger and better things. I mean, that's what 10X is so great for me. I mean, you got people in these groups that are making hundreds of millions and billions in their businesses, and it just takes off those business blinders and opens up the possibilities of what can be done in all these different areas.
100%.
So it's great. But now you're doing some other stuff now too. You've got your own podcast. You did a book, right? So what else you been doing?
Well, yeah, you know, a lot of stuff. And I always tell everybody like that all led to different things. I wanted to write a book, and I actually wrote the book 17, 18 years ago. And I sat on it. And what is it? The imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I thought, man, who am I thinking I'm Tony Robbins? Who am I thinking I'm so-and-so? So I didn't release it. And when COVID come out, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to release that book. I'm going to finish that book. And I did. But that book was not the same thing I wrote 14 years earlier because my opinion on this changed, my opinion on that, my process on that. So I wrote the book. Now, the reason I wrote the book was personal first. when I was a freshman in high school, I get called down the principal's office. And by the way, I was no stranger to the principal's office. I wasn't a bad kid, but I was a mischievous, active kid.
Sure.
Right? So I get called down. I'm thinking, I'm scanning my brain for what have I done in the last 3 hours that would have got me called to the office. And the superintendent's down there, my English teacher, another lady, and my mom. And they tell me I have a 6th grade reading level as a freshman. And they want to put me in a special class, right? That's what I heard.
Yeah.
They didn't use that, but I'm like, nah. Well, as a freshman, that's the lowest step you are in a high school of the big dogs. And Williamsville at this time started a brand new open. I was the first group to do 4 years in the brand new high school, which was an open room concept. So there was no front walls. They were all open. And so I'd go hide out in the bathroom till everybody was on peak to see if everybody was in their classroom and then run to that. And they put us in the janitorial closet. There was 3 of us, and I'm just like, I don't want to be seen.
Right.
And I would like to say it was maybe a week later, but it could have been a day or 2 later. And and then I would ask I'd go in late and then I would always say, hey, ma'am, I got to go to the bathroom. Can I go to the bathroom? She goes, the bell's going to ring. I know, I got to go right now. And I go hide out. And then one day she says to me, her name is Mrs. Buffington. She goes, John, can I ask why you always have to go why you're late? And then why do you always have to go to the bathroom? And she knew. And I go, I just got to go to the bathroom. She goes, sit with me for a minute. She goes, I'm talking with you. I care about you. What's going on? I don't want people seeing me coming in and out here because I'm stupid. She goes, you're not stupid. You have a reading level that needs to be brought up. That's it.
Yeah.
She goes, your other grades are fine. So, and I always say she was the first teacher that talked with me and not at me, or at least the first one I recognized. I'm not saying the other ones didn't. Huge transformation.
I bet.
Right?
Yeah.
So writing the book for me, like when I got to, by junior year, I was a straight A student. By senior year, I was high honors. College, I wrote all my papers were A's. So, okay, I overcame this obstacle. Yeah. So writing the book for me and to be a published author was like, again.
So cool. Yeah.
Hey, naysayers, I did it. And I started writing a book, and it was really my message that I teach for character development in my schools, but how do I expand it beyond my 4 walls? So the purpose I want to write and overcome this deficiency that I had.
That was probably pretty interesting, though, to start it 14 years prior, and then the perspective you have on it 14 years later and how you rewrote and went through that again. That was probably pretty interesting.
Yeah. And again, pensive, introspective, reflective person I think I've always been. And I think, again, my childhood probably developed me into that person, right? And when that happened, I'm like, this makes sense to me. I'm not the same fighter I was 15 years ago either.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense. And if I run it parallel to martial arts, ranking and movement and progress and steps, then I can find other things that run parallel to that in life. So no, 100%. I'm just like, okay, this is a good thing. This means you have developed.
Right.
You have developed to another level. That book became a bestseller.
Nice.
And I had no clue what I was doing with it. And I always say, by the way, divine intervention. People would say, how'd you figure this out? Divine intervention, because I was too stupid to do it on my own. But I just felt like the right people were always in my life. And it goes, what's the Zig Ziglar saying? If you help other people get what they want, you can get what you want. And we've always had a service-based mentality.
Right.
I've always said God puts the right people in my life in the right circumstances. For me to go through a terrible divorce and then get offered a job from one of the most genius men in the business, I didn't ask for the job. It just came, So things just align with that. But yeah, I'm looking back at that, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And the guy that I hired to help me do the book, I think I paid $5,000. He designed my cover. He designed my editing. He showed me the process. He left the company 2 weeks before my book release.
Oh, really?
And I couldn't talk to him no more because he had a non-compete. And nobody in the company knew anything about my book or anything.
No way.
So I just researched some stuff, threw it out there, went through my own, I did a 6-7 email campaign to my people.
Yeah.
My followers, my students. And yeah, I think we've sold over 3,000 copies of that book. And nice. I don't know what the ebook version is, but yeah, it's again, it wasn't meant to it wasn't a business project. It was a service and a overcome a weakness and deficiency type thing. And so then I wrote another book for 4 to 7-year-olds based on a chapter of that book. Right. And then I made it a character, Coach John helping Ricky.
Okay.
And there's 2 voices in your head, the ones that says I can't, the one says I can. And it's kind of the same process. And a lot of that I drew from my childhood. In 1996, when 5 people who care about you call and say, don't do it.
Right.
And we do building blocks off of the don't do it and how we get to our goals. And then I've got a faith-based one coming out called Chosen, A Child of God's Journey to Growth, Faith, and Confidence.
Very cool.
And that'll be released probably September, October. So,
okay. What are the names of the first 2?
Embrace Your Awesome.
Okay.
And then The Power Inside You, and then Chosen. And then people then started asking, hey, I'd love you to speak to our group and tell them how you got started.
Of course.
Okay. And I'd always been speaking on since 97. When we went to, I think, Stevenson Drive, 1996, I go full time. And I think there's a little tiny grocery store. It used to be Pre-Hop, dry cleaner, and then something else. And then a hardware store, coast to coast maybe.
Okay.
We were I want to say it was 1,400 square foot, everything. I had 225 members in there. And then we went down the street to Lake Town Plaza. And then it was 3,000 square foot, 4,000 square feet. So it just all this stuff kind of aligns and just keeps growing and moving. And, I started speaking to groups because they brought me in for that. And then someone says, hey, would you speak to my business group on customer service?
Right. Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. And then a guy's like, dude, you need to be speaking. I'm like, I had a guy the other day on a podcast say to me, he goes, hey, dude, were you in radio or TV? I go, dude, I'm
neither
one of those things. And he goes, dude, you have that voice. And I said, really? I said, because I wanted to speak when I worked at DOT. And my boss told me, you don't enunciate your words and you're probably the worst speaker I've ever heard. So
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I went, okay. And again, I don't think I didn't do anything to learn how to speak. I just, I think when the thing that misses in today's world, especially in business people, authenticity and truth.
That's huge.
Nobody. I don't think half the people are who they say they are. And sadly enough, I know 3 multimillionaires that they're a different person every 5 months. And I'm like, money doesn't make them happy. And until you know who you are, how can you reach your potential? So I think that's the first part, right?
Absolutely.
So I think with me, just getting up and sharing made me a better speaker. It wasn't that I went and I learned some techniques.
Right. It's just getting out there and putting in the reps.
100%, right? Same thing that you're doing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
no, that's, we've had this, I think we're up to about 300 episodes now. So
seeing your
reps.
You're a veteran compared to me. I think I've only released 53, 54. We filmed 70, close to 80 maybe now. I'd have to look in the queue there to see what we have. But
what's the name of the podcast?
Embrace Your Awesome.
Okay. I love that name.
And again, I didn't, it was just, someone said you should do it. And I go, what would I call it? They go, do it off your first book. So originally I was just going to do talk about subjects off the book. And then someone would go, hey man, I'd like to be on your podcast. I wasn't thinking about guests, but let's talk about that.
Right.
So now the podcast Monday is an episode with someone. I'd love to have you on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where I bring on guests, it's just somebody who has overcome something, because so many people are out there doubting themselves. And if I can share a story that helps that. So I've had, and again, divine intervention. I'm a New York Yankees baseball fan. 2 people called me and they said, hey, Ronnie? Ronnie's brother-in-law is the director of scouting for the New York Yankees, and he lives in Tampa.
Okay.
And Ronnie asked him, and he said he'll be on your show.
There you go.
So I have that guy on my show.
Heck yeah.
And then I'm like, what's it take for a 10-year-old who thinks he's going to make it? And we just talked about that. And we talked about 19-year-olds who put their whole life, whole childhood, and their dreams are cut out from underneath them at 19. Where do you go? Well, the director of scouting was that guy. And he goes, I knew I didn't want to leave baseball. So then they had me go out and look at talent. And he goes, and then it just led to the next thing, right? So those type of stories from people with sexual abuse, people that overcome stuff. So we do that on Mondays. And then on Thursdays, if I'm having a subject, like you and I have a talk, and if it sticks in my head for 24, 36 hours and I'm reflective on it, all right, this is the next topic.
Right.
Let's unpack it and build it up. And I'll do like a 15, 20 minutes. So those are out on Thursdays, and then Mondays I have the guests. So
okay, so nothing really martial arts related. It's all on the development side and storytelling. And
So I'm trying to expand that a little bit, and obviously none of this exists without that. Without martial arts, I don't know where I would have ended up.
Sure,
I think I would have been good, as in my career in labor negotiations and relations. I know I was good at it, or they wouldn't have kept calling me, right?
Right.
They begged me not to leave. You don't do that to somebody who's below average.
Right.
So I'm confident that I would have done good at whatever I wanted to do. But the thing that made me and created me was martial arts. And everything I've done is an extension off of that person. So when I tell people I'm not leaving the martial arts, I'm building off what the martial arts gave me.
Right.
And it's just, it's interesting. It really, truly is. Just to be at a different level, because I would have never, I didn't write the book to make money because as authors really don't make money. They really don't. Publishing companies do.
Right. They do.
Authors don't.
Right.
So the podcast, I like learning. I just like talking to people, learning about people and sharing stories.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, this is a great thing because when would I have ever sat down for an hour with the director of New York Yankees or Mike Stone, who was the legendary karate guy? And most people who don't know karate know him as the man that Priscilla Presley left Elvis for.
Right.
Now he and I are friends, and this was my childhood hero.
Yeah.
And now he's sending me emails and he sends me his books. And I'm like, it was just for me. I'm like, oh my God, I get to spend an hour and a half with Mike Stone. How awesome is this? Yeah. So it's just fun.
No, and that's the same with me. The intent behind this podcast, the Elevate Springfield podcast, when I originally started it, it was, hey, there's so many great people here locally, so many great people doing great things in our community, running phenomenal businesses. I want to tell their stories, help tell their stories, and I want to learn from them. So let's put this together. Let's give actionable strategies to folks so they can learn from it as well. And it's all going to elevate Springfield on the whole. So.
No, and I agree. And, and I think so many people don't understand the potential within themselves, but they also don't understand that Springfield has a lot of great people. If you, Mellow Cream, Donuts, Family Video, Brant Fertilizer. I mean, and then this kid who started teaching karate in a hallway is on MA Success cover magazine in 2010, 2011. I mean, how's it? And it's out of this little town.
Yeah.
And when you and I were coming up to the studio, I think I told you, I'm not one of those guys that moved away because I dislike Springfield. I moved away to follow my kids and just like, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't like winters anymore. I don't.
Right.
I'm up here
neither do I, quite frankly.
I'm up here about every 10 weeks, but already it was fun. Interesting because I teach a lot of private lessons when I'm in town, and I'll teach 9 private lessons between yesterday and today. And people are already booking, and I go, okay. I said, all right, I'll be here in October. And they go, I'm going to be winter. And I go, I think it's this date, but we need to check with Rick. And then they're like, okay. And I go, then it's not till March because I don't come back when it's cold.
Right.
And we know after Halloween, things start to shift.
Yes, they do.
And I got stuck in Dallas, Texas last year, and they had the first time they ever had like a major blizzard. And I'm there to speak and teach. And I'm like, okay, well, this wasn't supposed to happen. This is God getting me back. It's still right here. And it was crazy. And I just avoided it, and I hated it. I mean, I couldn't warm up. I'm just like, nobody was in the hotel, and it was this old hotel. And I swear I sent a picture of it to my family, and it looked like the Shining hallway. And I said, I'm checking into my room, and I seen these 2 girls at the end of the hallway. So just winters, man, just aren't my thing.
Yeah, no, me neither.
So that's the only downside of Springfield for me.
Right.
Is from November to March, I don't really want to be here. But this year, I remember being up here May, and I didn't have enough warm clothes.
Right.
I had to go buy a couple hoodies.
It's shifted a little bit. It's like it's shifted by about a month and a half.
Yeah.
When the cold really starts happening.
Yeah. So.
Well, John, you've been very successful over the years. I know a lot of people that listen to the show here locally are entrepreneurs, and hey, maybe they're 5 years or less into their business. What's a piece of advice you would give them today?
Man, I don't know if there's one because everybody's story is different, right? But I would say if anything from my story is, I always tell people, I tell this to my students, if I can get black belt, you can. Because there's nothing, I never consider myself naturally talented. I worked for everything, I went to a tournament, I kicked a guy, and someone goes, you got a great kick. So I developed that. I started throwing 500 kicks every other day. And so everybody's like, oh, your kicks are really great, right? So how'd you get there? I put the work in because I don't have talent.
Put in the reps.
So when I started, I realized my deficiency, my weakness was to make a living teaching was beyond charisma and beyond being the best kicker or the best competitor. I had to figure out how to service people. So I think my advice would always be know why you're doing what you're doing. And because I think when the moments of doubt, if you have a moment of doubt of who you are and why you're doing it, that's when it settles. Nobody could disturb my peace, even only making $5,000 for the first 12 months, right? Nobody could disturb that peace because I knew who I was and what I wanted to do. So I think anything is just remember why you started, and you didn't come this far to only come this far.
Love it. Well, John, is there anything we can all do to help elevate all of us here in Springfield and the surrounding communities?
I reached out to you because a mutual friend said, hey, have you ever seen this? You guys should connect.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing is this. I mean, that's exactly it. There's networking and rapport and relationships. It really is. Build them up and get out there. And I think you're doing it, and I think the city's doing it, and people just got to stay connected. There's so many opportunities. Was it Local First where I spoke?
Yeah, you spoke Local First a little over a year ago. Yeah. Absolutely.
And with Colton, and that's an amazing group,
Yeah.
And honestly, I didn't know what to say to that group. I kept telling, like, Colton, how do I tell a martial arts story to the Fit Club, or how do I tell the CEO of LRS how to be successful?
Sure.
So I'm like, well, but man, I enjoyed when it was over just talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't like, okay, I'll share it. Because I never look at it like I'm on stage. I look at it like, oh, okay, I'll share my story. Then I want to get out here and hear what your guys' stories are.
Yeah.
So I love those type of groups. And I would recommend to everybody to get involved with Local First, Better Business Bureau. You've got the small business clubs, ABC Club. I think there's so many great things.
Yeah.
And the problem is we don't connect with people. I had a podcast guest on, Hugo Maynard, and I'll share this real quick on the power of networking. And I really just liked his story. And he was an Olympian for the USA basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
And then he moved into speaking and stuff like that. And we were supposed to do a collaboration call to see if, as a follow-up. And he writes me, he says, John, do you live in Tampa? And I said, yeah. He goes, are you in Tampa? And I said, yeah. And he goes, how long are you here? And I go, I live here. He goes, I swore to God you said you were from. I go, I am from Springfield, Illinois. Abe Lincoln, home of Abe Lincoln. And he goes, I just didn't know. He goes, I flew into St. Pete. I'm speaking at a business event tomorrow. And I go, are we still on for our 11 o'clock call? And he goes, yeah. And I said, no, we're not. I said, now it's lunch.
Exactly.
And we met for 3.5 hours. And that guy helped me overcome so many little things in my head. So I share that because here's a guy I never met, flew in. We hang out for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. And more people need to do what you and I are doing and get out there to lunch today. And if you want to know what somebody like Milas Copeland's doing at Green Toyota, ask him to go to lunch.
Right.
You know? Buy his lunch. Ask him if he's got 10 minutes. And if he can't meet you in person, see if he'll call you.
Give him a call.
Or, I've asked a couple people, hey, I got a new book coming out who are faith-based like pastors.
Yeah.
Would you, if I sent you 4 or 5 chapters, I don't want you to read the book, would you be willing to read it? And if you like it, would you give me a review?
Yeah.
Heck
Absolutely.
yeah, John, let's do that. And I don't think enough people lean on each other. Just lean on each other because we're better as a team than we are as individuals.
No doubt about it. Communities grow together when we work
100%.
together.
Yep.
No doubt about it. So, well, John, so much great stuff today. Had a phenomenal time with you.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. I feel like, just like we're sitting in the living room talking.
Yeah, I think we could sit and talk here for like 4 hours if we want to.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
My wife she'll always say, like, when people come to my house, she'll go to bed. Because she knows if it's a karate guy or a business guy or a speaker,
right,
we're going to be in that kitchen till about 2 a.m.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, hey, if we're here for a reason.
That's right. I love it. So, well, John, remind everybody about the books, about Empowered, where they can find out all the information.
The best way is my name, johngeyston.com, JOHNGEYSTON.com, and everything's on there. The speaking, collaborating with groups, and the books, and the podcast, and everything is right there.
Love it. Well, John, thanks again for joining us in here in sunny Springfield while you're back here.
Yeah, no, and I love it. I love summers up here. And thank you. It truly was. It's great to connect on a better than just a handshake and a walking through a crowd and get to know each other more and keep doing what you're doing because I love what you're doing. I'm watching it from Tampa, so I love it. And I love to see things in Springfield just take off.
I do too. That's what we're doing it for.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, John.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to let John get back to elevating Springfield and Tampa for that matter. But for the rest of y'all, we'll be right back.
Looking for expert tree care with hometown integrity? Look no further than Sangamon Tree Service. They're your trusted local pros, delivering quality workmanship, exceptional customer service, and fair, honest pricing every time. Whether it's trimming, removal, or storm cleanup, their team brings professionalism and care to every job, big or small. Call the name your neighbors trust, Sangamon Tree Service, or visit them today at SangamonTreeService.com. Sangamon Tree Service, rooted in quality, built on trust. Looking for personalized insurance with hometown care? David Hilst, American Family Insurance Agent, is here to help you protect what matters most: your family, your home, and your dreams. Whether it's auto, home, life, business, David and his team are proud to serve the Springfield community with trusted advice and reliable coverage. Local service, real relationships, peace of mind. Call today or stop by their office. They can build your dream protection plan together. Call 217-726-6666 6343.
Well, thank you for joining us today, everybody. Appreciate you making us a part of your day. Hey, don't forget, while you're out on social, check ours out. You can check my personal one out at Robert Farrell at everywhere. Check out those Elevate Springfield pages, those Big Dog Business Coaching pages as well. Check us out over on YouTube. Give us a subscribe, give us a like or a follow on any of those channels. We would certainly appreciate it. So hey, take what you learned today. You bring the discipline and follow through, and together, that's right, y'all, we're going to elevate Springfield. Be great.
When I first walked into Shudokan Karate Club, I was just looking for a way to get stronger, but what I found was so much more. Here we train in traditional karate, the real stuff, passed down through generations. Every punch, every kata has purpose. I've learned self-discipline, confidence, and how to protect myself. Not just in class, but in real life. It's not about being aggressive, it's about being prepared. This is more than a club, it's a way of life. Join us at Shudokan, traditional, powerful, real. Ki-ai!